All right, now in this video, we are going to look at taking the generic form of now an ellipse, not a circle, and we're going to write it in the familiar form, our standard form. And we're going to use the same strategies as we did for the circle. We're going to be completing the square here algebraically to write a more familiar equation. That way we can tell where the center is, we know the distance from the center in the x direction and the y direction, and we can actually sketch this and understand more about this shape. So just like the circle, I'm going to do some reorganization right away. Keep my x's together. I'm going to take my y's, I'm going to put those together. And then I'm going to take this 276 and I'm going to bring it over to the other side of the equation. So in doing so, I'll have 25x squared plus 100x plus blank. And now my y's would be plus 16y squared plus, sorry, that's a minus 192y plus blank, and that will equal negative 276. Now, one thing we should notice here is that there's actually a number in front of my x squared and my y squared terms, where in the standard form you see that there's just a 1 in front of both my x's and y's. So if at all possible, what you need to do is you actually need to factor out that number. So from my x's, I'm going to factor out a 25. And that will leave me with a 1x squared. Plus, okay, now I have to factor out 25 from 100, so that would be 4x plus some blank. And for the green, the y's, we will have taken out a 16. And then that'll leave me with my y squared minus, and 192 divided by 16 is going to be 12 plus blank. Now that we've factored out that term, we want to now go ahead and complete our square. So looking at just inside the parentheses for the x's and just inside the parentheses for the y's, we could look at our 4. We take half of that number, and that's going to be 2. So I know that 25x plus 2 squared, and that means this number up here would have to be 4 because I'm going to be squaring 2. Okay, so now I added 4 to the left side. Wait, no I didn't, because this 4 was added inside the parentheses. So what I really added to my equation is if I were to multiply the 25 back in, it's 25 times 4. Okay, so 25 times 4, that's going to give me 100. So what I actually added to the equation was 100. So I'm going to add 100 over to the other side of my equation as well. And this is the part where people get mixed up a bit because they're adding an amount that seems like 4, but it's really not. So please pay close attention to that. Now for our negative 12, we take half of that and we'll get negative 6. So now I know that this will be y minus 6 squared. So I'm actually going to be adding in here 36 inside my parentheses. But I did not add 36. You have to keep track of the number outside. That factor, if you were to multiply it back in, 16 times 36. So 16 times 36 will give me 576. So I'm going to have to add that to my right side as well. And putting this all together, this should be a 16 in front of my parentheses. Okay, so here is one completing the square. Here's the other one. And then on the right side, we're going to have a number. Okay. So that number would be 276, which is negative, plus 100 plus 576. You get 400 for this number. And now I'm going to rewrite this so you can see everything together. So it'll be 25 times x plus 2 squared plus 16 times y minus 6 squared equals 400. Now this is really close to the equation of an ellipse in standard form. The only thing that we have to make sure that we have here is you're going to have it equal to 1. So what you'll do, and this is the last step, you're going to go ahead and divide all three terms by 400. That will make 1 on the right side of the equation. And then you would just reduce. And you can see that the 25 and 400, and 400 divided by 25 would be 16. So both these are divisible by 25, which would now give me 1 here and 16 here. And both of these terms are divisible by 16, and that would be 16 becomes 1, and then 400 goes into 16 25 times. So now my equation would end up being x plus 2 squared over 16 plus y minus 6 squared over 25 equals 1. So a few more steps in this problem than there was in the circle. Just to review some things to keep in mind as well is that you're going to have to complete the square just like we did prior, but keep in mind you have to factor out a number so that the x squared and y squared are just 1. And then you can complete your square, but when you add to the other side of the equation to balance, make sure you're not adding just the number inside the parentheses. And then after you've done that, make sure you divide through so that it's equal to 1, and then reduce. So now you can see that the distance from the center in the x direction is actually the square root of 16, which is 4. The distance from the center in the y direction is the square root of 25, which is 5. And the center is negative 2 comma positive 6. And now you can draw a pretty accurate sketch of the ellipse. That's it. And we're going to be doing this for the rest of the semester. So if you're having a hard time with it right now, don't feel bad. You're going to have another 3-4 class periods to work on specifically this.